Hi. I just want to begin by apologizing for not being able to attend in person. But I'm very grateful and very fortunate for this space and also for thanks to everyone that came to the opening, as well as Abby and Gandhi for allowing me to again turn the space into my own um, I don't know, my own space of freedom, um, per se. But just to begin, my name is Kaiden Cho. I currently live and work in Chicago. Um, I just recently graduated from my master's in painting and drawings from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago back in May. And after that, I was very fortunate to travel out to Italy in Umbria for my residency. And right after that, I traveled to Michigan to the school, um, the Oxbow School of Arts and Artist Residency, and was able to create this new bodies and the series of work. And just to share a little background about this series is that, well, the title is Being With, and there is a bit of a phenomenology ideas between the understanding of what is with being and what is with means. And I kind of like to work in this diaspora of kind of like challenging the viewers and the minds and how to read things and how to understand through the materials and really consuming in and really slowing down the time. And that's something that I've learned throughout my graduate program, and it is something that I continue to practice within the idea of Taoism and also the Zen Buddhism, in the sense of the wholeness and the idea of void, but instead of the emptiness of a void, it's the idea of how to fill in the presence of the void. And so that's where the idea of being and the idea of with comes in a sense that, like being in a way of being with someone or something, but also in relationship to humanity and nature, and also and with is how can I bring in the idea of the medium, the materiality. The materiality is the idea of to kind of present the means of what it means to be with, and although I dabble in between a lot of like different mediums in painting, sculpture, and also installation art. I consider myself as a tridisciplinary artist where I focus on not only visual art but also in philosophy and also in science within the materiality nature. Um, but within so going back into the title of being with, um, it's about this idea of, what is being seen through our eyes and how can we conceive through our minds. So it's the cyclical nature of this notion of like, circular. And that's where kind of like the motifs of the circle patterns kind of came in. Understanding the idea of, you know, um, to understand, there's a philosophical term, a hermeneutic circle, where if you were to see a whole, you got to understand the part, and to see the part, you got to understand the whole. And so again, like it's the idea of how the cyclical nature is, and that allows us to really slow down the time because we're in a society where everything is such a fast pace. And even during my grad program, I thought 2 year was so long, but at the same time, it blink of an eye, like I was done with the school. And so I'm only focusing what's in front of me, and it's just always go, 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 rather than how about looking up or looking down or looking side to side. And so the new pieces on the other side of the wall over here presents the idea of look up but not down. Um, just to kind of bring in the engagement of the viewers, allowing to look up to the art rather than just being what's in front of them. And so it kind of gives in that it's meditative, and like it's really allows you to again like consume, because we're not so adapted to looking up into a piece of work where it's always in front of us. And so allowing us to look up, it helps us to kind of, it brings in a new introduction into our memory, and it allows us to really fully understand what's above us and like understand. And so that's where the playfulness of the materiality and the installation came came into play. Um, but a lot of the process, just to kind of give a little more detail, is that I consider them as more object paintings because they're not a painting or sculpture. They could be both. And so that's where the idea of the object comes in. But more so, it's more of a drawing process. So they are a technically they are painting or an or sculpture, but for me, they're all a series of drawings, because there's a different idea within drawing itself, and drawing for me is the beginning and the finish. And I really, and for me to really kind of like create that path is for me to really understand the material that I use, where they come from, how are they made. And so from step A to like step Z is like kind of like I need to know every process for me to create these bodies of work. Otherwise, um, I otherwise, like I don't know if I would have been able to execute it in a way that I wanted the viewers to again conceive through how they see and how they through their mind. Um, but as you see, there's a lot of materials that are being in this exhibit, and most prominent material that I use is the Hanji mulberry paper. So during the residency when I was in Oxbow, I was able to really kind of like it's out in the nature where there is a lack of wireless. So like I wasn't able to like really, like I was able to really like kind of like, turn off my time in electronics and like really focus on myself and like really focus on the practice. And that's when I started kind of like understanding the deeper roots of the material, because not only it's has influence in my cultural background, but also it gave me the time and the freedom to really like understand the process of beating the barks into a pulping stage, into pulling the paper, and into the drying stage. And so that whole kind of like, it's a meditative process where I was able to really fully understand myself and the nature and also the material. And so again, like it goes back into the phenomenology of the idea of the cyclical nature. And through the travels of going through Umbria to Italy during the residency, I was more like, I was more, I was always been interested in this idea of repetition, but it really gave me the time to, not only the time difference, but it like gave me the actual like space for me to really um, become with the space and like understand my breathing patterns and the sunset and the sunrise, and like it's always like this rotations of pattern and my breathing again, like going into breathing patterns. That's where I started doing more repetition than what I have been doing prior. And within that, the idea is, to create something that has been created, but they're never going to be the same in the end. And And there's like a beautiness of that imperfection where you cannot complete the same thing or complete the same pattern as you wish or as you would like to see, um, but you can only see that in your own eyes, whereas the viewers might see it differently, where they don't see the imperfection and they don't see the same patterns. And so it's like that dialogue that creates in between and the balance. I think that's where all the repetitions, the forms of repetition and the patterns came from. And the materials that I choose really help me kind of succeed that, because I am very much, again, like diving into different mediums, like allows me to speak more fluently rather than, if this were to be just a painting, then it could be read just as a painting rather than, it doesn't really have that freedom of opening up a space where it could be read as either sculpture or objects, or like is it an installation. And so again, like, to kind of wrap the statement is that, like, as a Korean American, I'm trying to, create this bodies of work where not only it influences within my nature, but also how can my nature help other viewers to understand the patterns of slowing down the time and really fully grasping what is around them. And, you know, again, like, not everything is about, what's in front of us, but, really taking the time to look up and look down and, you know, um, yeah, and just hoping that, you know, in some ways or forms, like, we are taking the time in our lives to understand everything that we see. So, yeah, thank you.